All right. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to the Startup Secret for Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Shelby Olischlager, and our mission is to help entrepreneurs make a difference to navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to give you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, we have a special guest. Andrea Pass is here with us. And Andrea, to get started, first, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. And just give us all a bit of an introduction to what you do and your work.
Well, Shelby, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today. I am a public relations professional. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And public relations is all about getting a message out so that content could be put together based on that information. So you are not giving the content, someone else is. So that's a journalist, a producer, a host, what have you. Mm-hmm. And so public relations is all about being in the press, in the media, to increase your brand awareness, grow you as a thought leader, and ultimately drive sales to your product, your service, your business, your book. Mm-hmm. So that's what public relations is in a nutshell. And I've been doing it for a long, long time. And, you know, when you love what you do, you never worked a day in your life. I love what I do. So I can't imagine ever not being a publicist.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get started with this? And how did you find that need for public relations? And just tell us a bit of your journey getting started.
It's so funny because you don't realize growing up, things that you do truly influence your future. Mm-hmm. So I was always that person in high school that was the publicity chair of every committee. And I wrote a weekly column for the weekly newspaper, and the column was called In the High Schools. And I would interview different club leaders on their club or sports team or musical or theater production. And so I was always out there publicizing something. And when I went to college to study broadcast journalism, I still was the publicity chair of every committee of every club I was in college. And I took a few PR courses, but that wasn't my major. I was a radio, TV, film major. And when I got out of college, I immediately went to work for CBS in New York City. And when there was a break and the freeze and the broadcast area lifted, I got a job doing PR for the CBS radio division. So it was combining my love for broadcasting with my love for public relations. And then I never turned back. I loved what I did. So I said, why am I looking for something that isn't something I've been doing all along? And so public relations became it for me. And I am about to celebrate my 4th anniversary in business for myself with Andrea Pass Public Relations. So it's all good.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
So with what you've learned just within your own journey of public relations and how important is it, what are the things that you're helping your clients with to help get them that publicity and get their brand and business out there?
Most importantly, I'm making sure they're relevant, that someone wants to interview them, quote them, review their product or book, so that they have content. Because the way the world has changed, public relations is now about having that content. Because you get interviewed for a newspaper or a magazine or radio, TV, podcast, blog. You do that interview, you're quoted or your product is reviewed. And then what happens? So public relations is now taking that next step and making sure that the client has effective and active social media pages where they're posting this content, effectively tagging the media outlet and staying relevant. What's really important with all of this, I prefer working on clients where the information is evergreen. It's not targeted to a specific date. I mean, true, if you're talking about holiday gift guides, yes, certainly holiday gift guides are targeted to the holidays. But if something can be evergreen and it's important content, and you do an interview or you're featured somewhere, why not post it on your social media today when it comes out? And then post it again in 3 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, 5 months, 8 months, because it's relevant content. And audiences are not focused so much on the date the content originated, as opposed to what they're learning from your content. And certainly for anybody who's in a startup, what are you offering to your audiences? And how are you going to stay relevant years from now?
Mm-hmm. Right. And you think kind of like the ticket there is to be collaborating with others to help share like your messages on different platforms, would you say?
Definitely, definitely. And there are so many people today that will do their own podcast to grow their business. That's great. But even better to be a guest on someone else's podcast because you're reaching new audiences that you may not have reached. And certainly, here I am today talking about Andrea Pass Public Relations with you, Shelby, and your platform. And I think that reaching potential clients in various assorted rooms is the way to go. So if you're reaching someone by an article in a daily newspaper, or you're being featured in a magazine, or you're being quoted on television, whatever it might be, it helps grow your business. And so public relations is a really important part of your marketing budget. So when you're planning each year, don't discount public relations while you're planning marketing, social media, advertising. Don't forget the public relations.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to my next question of you talk about the difference between the public relations and advertising. Can you tell us a little bit about what that difference is?
And it's huge. It's a huge difference. In advertising, you create the content. You pick the words. In public relations, the journalist creates the content and picks the words. You can't pick the words. In advertising, you're buying something. So you are buying an ad that you know is going to appear on the right side of the magazine, lower half, front of book, because that's what you paid for. In public relations, there's no guarantee in that because it's editorial content. And in advertising, let's be honest, the audience is always skeptical because they know it's an ad and they know you've put that there. But in public relations, it's editorial content, and therefore it is fact. And can you say the wrong facts? Well, yes, that does happen. People give the wrong facts, but a good journalist is going to do their homework before they print that to make sure the information is correct. And so you have this factual, relevant, rated higher approach, and you don't have the skepticism because of the fact as it being journalistic as opposed to paid advertising. So those are some of the differences between public relations and advertising. In public relations, you can also target your message to certain audiences, the same way in advertising that you could do an advertising buy that is reaching certain audiences. So that's where there is a similarity to make sure you're targeting and reaching people in a certain city or people in a certain demographic.
Right. Yeah, that actually makes so much sense. And it really paints a picture of how important public relations really is for people. Because I'm just thinking of myself, how it is such a missing piece. Like you think, oh, I'll put my stuff out there. I'm doing it just with myself. But then you miss the part of putting yourself in front of the other eyes and in a way that is a lot more authentic, I would say, where it's just like a natural, like you said, it's not an ad where people are skeptical. It's something just like a natural flowing way to consume content that it makes a lot of sense. So with that, with some of the clients that you're helping, I'm curious when they realize that they need to start working on this area of their business or their brand, what are some of the issues or any sort of obstacles that they seem to always face with taking this next step?
First thing is there's no wrong time to start public relations.
Okay.
You should be starting public relations today. If you are first learning about public relations, well, start today. There are authors who've already written their books and published their books. It doesn't mean you can't start now, even though your book published 6 months ago, because there's a new audience to reach your book or to buy your new piece of cookware or your new beauty product or your new line of swimsuits or whatever it is. So there's always the right time to get out there and do that message and get that message told. But what's really helpful is when you're working with a reputable public relations firm, and I find my clients who come to Andrea Pass Public Relations know that I'm going to spend the time and get them the coverage. But coverage doesn't happen overnight. I have a client I just started with today. Okay, literally 2 hours ago. Nice. And I already have 2 press people interested in his story, but I couldn't answer all the questions yet because I still don't know everything about this client. So you want to be able to secure press and be out there, but start today and plan ahead. And I previously mentioned the holiday season. So if you have a gift, it's a perfect gift for the holidays. You want to start talking about that gift as early as June of that year, because people are writing holiday gift guides and planning. So you do want to plan ahead if your story is targeted to back to school or breast cancer awareness month, or heart health month or barbecue season or whatever it might be. You do want to be able to plan that, but it doesn't mean it can't happen 12 months a year. So that's what's important to note about public relations is you need it. And I think one of the things that you said to me was, what makes people not do public relations, or no one wants to spend any money. And that's a big challenge. I'm a solopreneur. And so I have to think carefully about the expenses. But for instance, I'm working on redoing my website and I'm going to have new headshot photos taken. These are expenses that are necessary for you as a business person. So if you're going to do public relations, you need to have a budget, and it's not a 1 month and done. It's an ongoing process because of the fact that journalists may not respond today, but they might respond in 3 weeks and then book the interview for a month later. And then it comes out 3 months after that. So it's a process, but you need to start the process now so that you can see the results in the near future.
Yeah, makes sense. It definitely, like a lot of things in business, things take time, and it's usually one step at a time. It's going to get there and come. So you did mention just a few of your clients that you work with. Can you tell us a little bit about what your ideal client would be like when you're trying to decide if you're going to work with them?
I love working with entrepreneurs. I just think the entrepreneurial spirit is so infectious. And to work with entrepreneurs who put their blood, sweat, tears, heart, and soul into their company, whether that's a service, whether it's a product, whether it's a book, I love that. And so I work with a lot of clients in consumer products, anything from housewares to hardware to lawn and garden and beauty and fashion and accessories and health and wellness, because there are so many audiences that want to learn about the new product, the next product, why they need that product. So I love product PR. I love working with authors. Right now I'm working with a combination of nonfiction and fiction authors because they have a great story to tell. I'm working with Carrie Cooper, who is a holistic therapist, and she's written a book called Mental Health Uncensored, really giving parents 10 foundations to help their children, especially teens. And if you think about what we've gone through every day, in addition to the last few years, young people really need the right mental health care. And the parents need to understand what is relevant. So to be able to get out there and publicize Mental Health Uncensored is really just a great feeling to get the message across. So my ideal client is someone who is ready today to get started. So what do you need? Can I jump ahead and tell you what you need? Is that okay? Okay. If you're ready to start public relations, you need a website. Okay. Any press person is going to look at your website. You need good photography. Combination of your headshot, because everyone wants to know who owns the company or wrote the book or invented the product. So you want to have good headshot and good lifestyle shots, you in action. And you want to have active social media pages. You don't have to be the best social media guru on the planet. And that could be a place where you do save some money by doing your social media yourself instead of hiring someone to do it. But make sure you're active and do not put personal things on your business Facebook or social media pages. Separate them as much as possible, because no one wants to hear your politics on your business page unless you're a politician. So you want to keep these things separate in your world. But by staying relevant and having that kind of engagement, the press is happy because they know you're going to feature their interview on your page or their review on your page. So those are some things that you need to get started with. The product or book could come out months from now. But if we have an image of a book jacket, I can start with that now. If we know this is going to be the page that's available on Amazon, we could start with that now. So the same with your business. If you're a wellness coach, what are some tips? Let's share those tips with the press that make you stand out different from every other wellness coach. So having those things really, really important in the public relations campaign. And my job as your public relations person is to say, okay, what makes you a differentiator? What's standing out about you that is going to make you the person someone should hire for your field? Because there are zillions. There are a zillion business coaches. There are a zillion health and wellness coaches. There are so many consumer products or books, fiction or nonfiction. There are so many different things. Why you? Why your story? Why your business? And that's my job in Andrea Pass Public Relations, to get that message out to the press.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And it kind of makes me just think of that whole brand awareness where we are the brand. And do you find like that sometimes it's hard for people to differentiate themselves with their product because they are so involved in that product or their service? Like it is kind of them, right? Do you find that people have a hard time making that gap between them and their business?
I think that it's okay not to have the gap.
Okay.
I think it's okay that you are your business, because if you think about it, we spend more time on our business, unfortunately, than we do in life. And I know I always say I prefer life-work balance and life comes first. But in reality, I was reading a statistic last week from the Department of Labor that the average person works 44 hours a week. Okay, so we are working more than a 40-hour work week, and we're putting in an average, I think, of 8.8 hours a day. That's a long day. So we can't differentiate ourselves or separate ourselves from our businesses, but we need to find the right mix so that we're doing what makes us all happy at the end of the day. So there's that positive story about giving it all and being happy, and everyone's interpretation of success is different. And me celebrating this work anniversary and having my entrepreneurial venture and doing what I love to do, it is a success story in my mind and in the mind of my clients and my colleagues and my friends and family, because at the end of the day, I'm happy.
That's the most important thing. And you're helping others make their difference as well. Like you said, with the lady writing the book, to help all these parents and their kids. Like what a cool little ripple effect that you're able to do and be a part of that. Like that's super special. So that does kind of bring me, you just kind of answered it, but I always like to know people's why when they're starting their business, because like you said, entrepreneurial spirit, everyone has a huge why, because that's why we're doing this, right? So I'd like to know, what has been your why with deciding to start your Andrea Pass Public Relations, and just moving forward, what's the why?
It's so funny because for years I worked with someone else's name on the door. And my clients kept saying to me, Andrea, why aren't you going out on your own? Because I was bringing in all the business, I was doing the work, and I was getting the successes. And yet the person whose name was on the door benefited from it financially. And true, I had a salary. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I didn't get paid. But it got to a point that it was like my turn. And a number of different things led me to that. And I think the why was, why not me, considering I'm doing it all along? And so when I started my business, I actually had a former client who had a new product, and he says, I'm hiring you. This was literally like day whatever 4 of my business, and he bought me my first batch of business cards, which of course business cards have become a bit antiquated over the past 2 years. But I worked on his campaign, and it was a vitamin supplement, which is a very hard thing to publicize because it's not a tangible. So we got him a nice amount of press, and then he referred me to other people. But suddenly, former clients and connections were referring people to me and coming to me. And so it's a good feeling to be out there. My why is I love public relations and look forward to continuing to do that career for many, many years to come. So it's a very exciting thing. And Andrea Pass Public Relations is based in the Northeast, which means absolutely nothing. My clients are all over the country. I get the job done. Many of my clients I've never met in person. And I don't need to, because we have this wonderful technology that we can get to know each other, and we can quickly get answers to our questions and stay in tune. And yet by being a solopreneur and having my own business, I can go on a vacation and my clients are okay with that. And if I need to speak to them, which I was recently in Mexico, I was on the phone with a client a few times. We had to rearrange an interview. It had to get done. It couldn't wait. No big deal. Get it done. So I think that my why is this love for public relations and the excitement of when that interview or article or review comes out. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I am glowing because I see that client in that interview, or I see that review of that book, or that piece of cookware or kitchenware that's featured in an article. And I'm like, yes, it happened. I got it done. It's a success. The client will be pleased.
Yeah. In that sense, you're almost like their biggest cheerleader as far as like that area. You're like, yay, they, you get to see their success and know that you played a big part of it. So I think it's a great why.
Yeah. I think I have to make a note that I'm a cheerleader. It's very interesting. My LinkedIn, I call myself a PI in PR because I'm a private investigator in public relations, because I'm always researching new media opportunities. And I think that I'm going to make a note of that. I think that I have to add something about being your top cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I call myself. That. Yeah, that's what I call myself with some, because I do some coaching as well. And it's like, I will be your cheerleader. This is my job. And yeah, it's fun. It's good because, like you said, part of their success is yours as well. You did a bit of, you participated in that. So that's awesome. I'm curious though, you said, you were working for someone else with their name on the door. What was that transition like for you to step out of that and go on your own?
Well, it's very interesting because I actually had a middle in there, because I had worked for a public relations firm, had amazing clients and a phenomenal staff, but I had a bully boss. The bully boss. Yes, but he didn't know the first thing about public relations, even though he thought he did. And the clients didn't like him, but his name was on the door. So when I went to leave there, I actually had run into the competitor at a trade show. And I went over to the competing PR firm and asked the person, "Are you so-and-so, the owner?" knowing she was. And I introduced myself and she said, "I know who you are." So my reputation had preceded me, which was great. I asked her to step away from her booth. And I said, "I'm looking for a career change." And at that moment, she said to me, "Fantastic. You'll be my vice president of media relations. Can you start on Labor Day, right after Labor Day?" I mean, literally. Wow. This all happened within seconds. And I looked at her. I said, "That sounds fantastic. Let's work out all of the details. I look forward to working for you." And so I left the bully boss, worked for this other company, and until this opportunity, this door opened up. And I still have a wonderful relationship with that middle company that was so warm and kind to me. But me and a number of other people have left that company over the years and started our own solopreneurships. So it's really such a great feeling when you decide to hang up your shingle and put that Andrea Pass public relations out there. And so being a solopreneur feels great. I don't plan on hiring anyone ever, because I want it to be my work. And I don't want to rely on someone else who might drop the ball. I need to know that the job is getting done. The client could rely on me. If I say I'm doing something, I can't. I set realistic expectations, follow up effectively, and know that the client will be happy in the end because I'm doing the work that I say I'm going to do.
Right. So did I hear, so you are the only one working for you? Interesting. Okay. Because you always hear people like, oh, if you want to scale, you need to hire and delegate and whatnot. How has that experience been for you if you're kind of like the one-man show?
And it's a great question, because it's something I've thought about. Do I want to hire anyone else? But I think that having been a manager, having overseen a team, when we worked in person, the job was getting done by my team members because they had to answer to me every day, all day long, because I'm right there in their face. When I started having a team remotely, I was finding that things were not getting done. And they wouldn't respond to my email or my phone call or my text. And every week they would say they got it done, but I'd say, but where? Show me. And they'd have nothing to show. And I think that being that I had a bad experience with others who were letting the ball drop, I would secure a press interview, say to a member of my team, reach the client, get this set up for Tuesday or Thursday at 4 p.m. And they wouldn't get back to me. And they'd say, oh, well, I sent an email. What? Pick up the phone. If you can't find the person, everyone was in person at that point, call the company, have them paged. They're paying us to do this. And so I realized when I started my own business, I want to have that freedom and flexibility to be able to work on what I want to work on and say no to clients I don't want to work on. And I've said no a number of times. There are clients that just were not a good fit. It's better that we're a good fit. So for companies that do want to scale, that do want to hire, you've got to hire the right people. You've got to really do your homework, and you've got to set the expectations so that if indeed the staff member is not meeting those expectations or job requirements, you are moving on quickly, because then you can lose clients as a result. And to me, because they know they're getting me, they're getting 30 plus years of public relations experience. They know the job is getting done. And then in turn, they're referring me to their connections.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so powerful, I think, because you hear that a lot of businesses, it's like this person's name, but then when you come down to actually the work, it's like, oh, their intern or someone else is the one managing it. And as a business owner, I'm sure people would be upset to know, like, I hired you, but yet I'm getting less than in their head. You know, you never know. I'm sure there's lots of good workers, but it's still not Andrea Pass. Like, you are what people are coming for, right? And yeah, I think that's really important.
And it's funny because I had a boss many, many years ago who I adored, and he had a sign in the office, perception is reality. And, you know, true, you want that perception to be your reality. You don't want it to be perceived you're getting Andrea Pass, who's doing the work, and then, oops, I'm really slipping you this intern with no experience. I'm going to stick with realism and the reality. And I want people to believe in me and the job that I'm getting done in public relations. And that's the most important thing at the end of the business day or the work day, is that you're happy with the team that you've pulled together. And for any entrepreneur, you're pulling together a team of people that you're working with on public relations, maybe on advertising, someone who designed your logo, someone who designed your website. Maybe you have a sales team. So maybe you have a COO, or a CMO, or you have other members of your team, but you want to pull together the best team that's going to make you look terrific.
Yep, exactly. And that's where your referrals and everything come from, where you can keep growing and expanding your clientele, which is so crucial for your own growth and to, keep going. So with that, I'm curious, with your work, what does your next 12 months look like? What are some of your goals that you're trying to pursue within this?
That's a great question. It's very interesting how many business coaches will say you need this plan. You have to have this plan. And I think that I'm at a stage in my life and in my career that my plan is to continue to have 4 to 6 clients a month on a minimum 6-month monthly retainer, and continue to grow relationships and bring in new clients, because that's where I'm the happiest. And sometimes a client that started today, I started wooing that client 6 months ago and they weren't ready. And yet I've had a situation where I had a phone call on a Friday and the client said, "Can we start Monday?" So you just never know. But I do have a client or two starting in September that already told me that. I have a few that have some new things happening in the coming year. So I think the plan of action is to continue to secure press coverage, continue to meet new people, and keep the name Andrea Pass Public Relations out there and relevant, and to enjoy life and go on some vacations and spend time with family and friends.
Yeah, the perfect work-life balance.
Exactly. I think I'll get you to flip that too, to life-work balance.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's going to become a worldwide thing. It's going to be the life-work balance from now on.
And I think as more and more people are working remotely and staying remotely, that you see that. And I see in different generations are doing that as well. And I see my husband permanently remote, working from our island in our kitchen, and that's his workspace. And he's happy as could be. And I see, my son who works from different locations wherever he happens to be, and my daughter who works remotely, in the room with her dog. And so it's a great thing that we can get the job done and avoid the hours and hours and hours of commuting that was really sucking the life out of us. And to be able to today, it was a beautiful day. I said, I'm going to go for a walk around the block. Had a little lunch, went for a stroll around the block. I got back to my meetings. I was refreshed. You really can't find the time to do that when you're hustling, bustling, and having to rush somewhere here and there. And I think that life-work balance makes us better people.
And exactly. And also, as far as our work goes, like you said earlier, our work is part of our identity. So if we're able to work well, then we're just growing as ourselves and hopefully doing something that is fulfilling as an individual, not just, punch in, punch out for the sake of it. So definitely that's a really good takeaway as well. And it's kind of interesting with the whole world situation that happened. Everyone didn't like it at first. And I mean, it was like, obviously it was what it was, but now in hindsight, the changes that we were forced to make, some of them weren't bad. Like you just said, being able to work from home or work wherever, like we never had that opportunity as much that we do now. So it's
and I had worked for, as I said, I'm in the Northeast, and I was working for a public relations firm in the Los Angeles area. So I had a home office before home offices were the thing. So for me, there was no change in that. The change was not going out to meet clients or not going out to go to networking events. And I think that having all of these amazing virtual events that are networking, education, business growth, it really gives you that opportunity to learn and meet new people every single day. And I think that's what I love. I love that I learn something new every day. I actually run a monthly networking group called Access Success Networking with a colleague. And we bring in a speaker who speaks about a business education topic. And then we do our breakout rooms with questions based on what we just learned to grow our businesses. And it feels great to be able to have the ability to do this. And I sit on a lot of volunteer boards. I'm on the executive board of the United Inventors Association of America. We're all about inventors and inventing. And it feels great to give back and educate inventors and work with inventors so that they can get their invention to market. And I sit on the board, actually the workshop council chair of the Performance Driven Marketing Institute. So it's great to be able to be in business for yourself and to find the time to give back by being involved in different types of organizations.
They always say that's really key for success. Like if you're able to give back, you're going to receive it as well. So I think that's also another thing for listeners to always keep in mind, to have that time to give in whatever way that you can. And I think when you do that, it goes full circle. It's going to come back to you, and very important. So just to wrap up, one thing I'd like to know is, so people listening, where could they find you if they want to learn more from you and potentially work with you?
Well, I always offer a 30-minute consultation. So please visit my website, AndreaPassPR.com. You could find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Andrea Pass Public Relations. So I'm on all social media. Reach out to me. Tell me you heard me on Shelby's show. And I'd love to spend some time learning about your business and your goals, so that I can help you with public relations. And maybe Andrea Pass Public Relations is the firm for you, so that we can make you relevant, get you press coverage, and grow your awareness.
Perfect. I love it. I'm going to ask one final question that I just like to ask to close it all off. What one piece of advice would you like to give us? What's one final word that you'd like us all to think about after this conversation?
Can I copy someone else's quote?
Of course.
Failure is not an option. It's not an option. You're starting your business. You're out there. You're learning. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes, you're going to make mistakes. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and failure is not an option. Keep going.
Love it. Awesome. On behalf of myself, I want to say thank you because I feel like I took a lot away from this conversation. I really hope others listening can as well. And if you do, please go follow Andrea and see what she has to offer. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing some of your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Okay.